In this video, we're going to be adding and subtracting radicals. In this example here, if we take a look, I have 2 radical 5 plus 3 radical 2 plus radical 5 plus radical 2. And if I use what I know about radicals, I can, well, if I have 2 of some quantity, I'm just going to look at this some quantity. I have radical 5, and I have radical 5 here. I know I have one of these radical 5s. And I have, I have 1 there, 1 radical 5, and I have 2 of that same quantity over here. Well, if I have 2 of some quantity and I add 1 of that same quantity to it, well, that's easy. I have 3 of that quantity, and sometimes it helps to think of it like a variable. If I have 2a, and this quantity is also a, they're the same. If I have 2a and 1a, I have 3a. But it's the same process. I have 2 radical 5 and 1 radical 5. I have 3 radical 5, 3 of that quantity. And same thing here. If I have 3 radical 2 and a 1 radical 2, again, those are both the same quantity, so they're the same item. They're like items. I can add them together. So sometimes I think it helps if I'm writing these different variables. If we called this b, if I had 3b plus 1b, I have 4b. So I have 3 radical 2 plus 1 radical 2. I have 4 radical 2. And when I have my answer here, I have 3 radical 5 plus 4 radical 2. Well, I can't add those together. Those are different quantities, so I have to leave it. And that's my simplified answer because both the radical 5 and the radical 2 are simplified. So my answer would be the 3 radical 5 plus 4 radical 2. So that was a fairly easy one because everything in here I had was already simplified, and I had some like items that I could, or like quantities that I could add. Let's look at an example where they're not all the same. And I might have to simplify first. What if I had 3 radical 6 plus 2 radical 24? Okay. Well, in this example, I don't have like quantities, so I know I can't add it as is. But I know radical 24 can be simplified. So if you think back to the last video, if you remember watching that one, radical 24 I know has a perfect square that is a factor of it, and I can divide 24 by radical 4. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 times radical 4 times radical 6. Now you probably see why I did that, because radical 6 and the radical 6 here. So radical 4 we know, well, that's just 2, so that's going to cross out. I'm going to simplify that as just 2. So it's 2 times 2, which is 4 radical 6, and then I have my original 3 of that same quantity, radical 6. So if I have 3 of something and 4 of something, I actually have 7 of that something. So I have 7, oh, just lost my video, 7 radical 6. Okay. Thought my battery died there for a second. Let's finish this. So 7 radical 6, and that would be my answer. 7 radical 6. Let's try some subtraction. What happens if we go to take away? Is that going to change our problem? Let's see. Let's say if I had 3 radical 2, and I want to subtract 4 radical 3, subtract 2 radical 2 minus 5 radical 3. Okay, let's see how I can do with this problem. Again, if I have 3 of some quantity, and I take away 2 of that, I'm only going to have 1 left. And the same rule holds true here. If I have 3 radical 2's and take away 2 radical 2's, I'm just going to have the 1 radical 2 left over. Alright, and in here, you got to remember I'm subtracting, but it's really 0 take away that, so I have a negative 4 radical 3. I'm taking away 5 radical 3's. So I got to use my rules of subtracting negatives. And here, I'm going to get negative 4 minus 5. I'm going to get a negative 9 radical 3. And that's going to be my answer. Again, the radical 2 and the radical 3, I can't combine. They're different quantities, so I can't subtract them. So I'm going to just leave it. And that would be my final answer. Alright, one last example for the night. This last one we're going to have to simplify before we can subtract. So what if I have 3 radical 12 minus 2 radical 3. Again, they're different quantities, so I can't subtract them as is. But radical 12 can be simplified by taking out a radical 4. So I'm going to simplify that and rewrite this as 3 radical 4 times radical 3. And I'm going to subtract my 2 radical 3. Again, take the square root of 4 and get 2. And if I multiply that, I have 6 radical 3 minus 2 radical 3. And then 6 of some quantity subtract 2 of that exact quantity. I'm going to get 4 radical 3. And that's my final answer.